Here live. Tonight's Ingles on the Beat segment. I want to start out by thanking Ingles. I know that Ingles right now would like to thank all their customers and their associates for their patience, their support, their business. Obviously, these are unprecedented, trying times. Right now on Ingles, all stores will close at 10 p.m. The 24-hour stores for Ingles will reopen at 6 a.m. and others will open at the normal time. So just some news there from Ingles letting you know their Starbucks locations all opening at the normal time and closing at 8 p.m. So throughout this, Ingles is doing their cleaning, their sanitizing, and restocking to make sure that they serve their customers. I'd like to take a second before I get started just to thank Ingles for their sponsorship. You know, they've been sponsoring this Ingles on the Beat segment now for more than a year, and I've certainly enjoyed coming to you guys and answering your questions and talking to you. And certainly there are a lot of questions. There's a lot more questions right now than there are answers. But I'll do my best to tell you what I know, to share my thoughts and my opinions as we move forward through this. I don't think this is certainly not an easy time for anybody. And again, a lot of uncertainty that makes us kind of hit the reset button. We do love our sports. We enjoy sports. We follow Georgia athletics closely. It's my livelihood. It's my teammates' livelihood. Everyone at DawgNation, we're committed to continuing to cover Georgia as well as we can amid these uncertain times. I see Jacob says you want to hear some fire. Man, Jacob, I don't know how much fire I've got for you. I wish I could take it all out right now on the coronavirus and the situation it's put us in. I've been staying up with it just like you. I go to ajc.com. The stats there. The numbers are incredible, the way they've been able to keep up with it. I mean, you could go to that website right now. If you go to ajc.com right now, you can find out how many cases there are in Georgia, where it's at, county by county. I know Athens-Clarke County now with 3 cases, Oconee County not with any yet, but we're seeing it spread. I mean, look, that's not what we're here to talk about. Let's talk sports. Let's try and get away from this madness for a little bit. We'll bring it up, obviously, in context with some things going on today. The Southeastern Conference, whatever hope that we had left of a adjusted time for the spring game, it's gone. It's not going to happen. The SEC has made a statement that all spring sports are canceled. There's not going to be any practices. I think the guidelines that came from the White House yesterday is they look to mitigate this. No gatherings of over 10. That pretty much eliminated people being on campus and taking classes, and Greg McGarity tells me in turn that's kind of what sparked and spurred the decision that no more spring sports practices. Now, I've talked to some of the student-athletes' parents. They're out there training. Those kids are still getting after it. They still have goals. They still have ambitions. Everybody's still focused forward on the football season. There's some great news. Terrence Edwards had a great interview with Terrence Edwards the other night. And I don't know, you may have already read the story that's up there on the DawgNation page right now about Jermaine Burton. This is a guy that Jeff Sentell told me about. You know, back when we were talking, like I think I've told you all before and on the beat, we've all kind of got our favorite receivers out of this group, right? And I know Jeff has been very high on Jermaine Burton. I'm not going to speak for him and say that's his favorite, but talking to Terrence Edwards, very clear that Terrence Edwards believes that Jermaine Burton is going to be, of the freshmen, the biggest impact guy. He told me this guy is faster and quicker than Jamar Chase. Now, that you can just imagine the kind of reaction that got on Twitter when I put that out there. I mean, not everybody agreed with it, certainly not the other teams, but you know, for Terrence Edwards to say this, and Terrence is a guy that played in the Southeastern Conference, played for Georgia. He's followed it closely. He keeps up with, he trains receivers in that metro Atlanta area that play everywhere. So, yeah, he's a bulldog, but this is a guy with some perspective and some scope. And for him to put Jermaine Burton on that level was exciting to me. And you just say, man, when is it going to happen, right? We're all anxious for it to happen. But when it does, Georgia's going to be ready. I mean, I got that from the message that Kirby Smart put out yesterday. Again, talking with McGarity today on the phone, you know, that message, that video message, and it was just print. You didn't get to hear Kirby's voice, but Kirby wrote that message. That was Kirby Smart's idea to put that message out there for the Georgia fans, to let everyone know how much they cared. You know, Greg was telling me, Mike Kirby cares about his players, but he cares about all of Georgia. That has made things so much easier for Georgia. it's so much of an advantage because, look, I get it. When a coach takes over a program, they all say it's their dream job. They all say it's the destination. They all say they're all in until they're not, right? But when you've got a guy like Kirby Smart that played at the University of Georgia, that cut his teeth, a graduate assistant for Mark Richt, and yes, he went to work for Nick Saban, which was brilliant. Why wouldn't you? And helped build Alabama. When the Alabama fans start to troll Kirby Smart, and I don't know if you saw that tweet from Cecil Hurt, that if Nick Saban built a McDonald's, that Kirby would build a McDowell's. Did everybody get amnesia and forget that Kirby Smart helped Alabama build that dynasty, that Kirby was the best recruiter on that staff, that Kirby was the guy that the players were attached to? I mean, listen, Saban is a great coach, but he's a dictator, and he doesn't have the kind of relationship with his players like Kirby has with his players. I mean, the guy's like almost 70 years old. I mean, Kirby's, 44, 43? So, whenever you see that trolling from Alabama, I just want to say, no, wait a minute. Kirby Smart was part of what Alabama accomplished, a big part. He recruited those players. He helped you identify that talent. So, that's to me when I see that. And I guess, until Georgia knocks off Alabama next year on September 19th, I guess they're going to have the bragging rights and make those silly jokes. But that's something that I always try to keep into perspective, is how much Kirby was a part of what Alabama has built. And, and I think Nick Saban has told me that when I've interviewed him before. These guys will only compliment each other so much because they're still competing for recruits. I think about, this new world that we're in right now, and how is it going to affect football? And what are going to be some of the changes that are going to happen as a result of this? And I think, for me, where it starts, my first observation, my first thought here, we'll start with this. The rich get richer. Let's start with that right there. The schools that have the most resources are going to be the best equipped to deal with this. There's going to be some financial hardships out there. A lot of money was lost with the NCAA tournament. This is one area where I believe that Georgia is in very good shape. Now, there's been a lot of years where people have said that Georgia was too conservative. And Georgia's had this emergency fund, right? And a lot of people have said, why don't you just tap it? Why don't you spend it up? Folks, Georgia is sitting in a lot better shape than a lot of other schools out there. Now, and that's just the way it is. I mean, it's not a bragging point. It's not something you bring up to put any other programs down. But it's kind of where you begin, is how equipped are you to handle this right now? University of Georgia is well equipped to handle this, academically and athletically. Now, another argument for my rich get richer is the recruits that Georgia has gone after and the kind of players that the Bulldogs have. For example, I was just talking with you about Terrence Edwards, because Terrence Edwards has been working out with Jermaine Burton as well as other players. I mean, that's a huge advantage. The new receiver, you take a look at all the different guys that they have and what are they doing right now and how are they staying in shape. I mean, Justin Robertson had the opportunity, to already be on campus and go through workouts. Now, they hadn't had spring drills, but he's kind of been somewhat indoctrinated to the program. Well, he's working out. He was one of the guys that was working out there with Terrence Newman, along with Jermaine Burton. So I think that's big. Ladd McConkey, a young wide receiver, former quarterback, he's working out in this group. So you've got Terrence Edwards working out with 3 receivers right now, 3 times a week. These guys are going to do everything they can to stay ready, to be prepared. It's obvious spring football. It's lost. You gotta write that off. You almost wondered, could there be a summer football? Could there be a, everything's on the table. Talking to McGarity, I mean, nobody's ruling anything out as far as how Georgia or how these other schools could get prepared for the season. So you wonder if there's going to be some summer training. But getting back to my thesis here, the rich getting richer, the players that Georgia's recruited, there's a reason why they were the highest ranked in the country, cumulatively, but even individually. I mean, the players that Kirby signed are guys that signed on to win championships. The players that he signed are players that are going to be committed. They're going to be committed to staying in shape. They're going to be committed to staying ready so that when we do put this behind us, they're going to be able to jump in with both feet. And therefore, I think the programs that have recruited the higher caliber players, when this is over, when we move forward, they're going to be the best equipped to deal with it. Another thought that I had, obviously Georgia at somewhat of a disadvantage offensively when you consider, that the Bulldogs are putting in a new offense this year. Everybody's at a disadvantage on offense, though. And how many times have we heard over and over and over that the defense is usually ahead of the offense? Well, it just so happens that Georgia returns the best defense in the nation. So where I think a lot of these programs are going to be behind, not going through spring drills, not having the choreography offensively, maybe not having the timing between the quarterbacks and the receivers because of some of these things that are in place, makes Georgia's championship level defense all that much more effective. I think what you'll see in college football this season, and I'm going to stay optimistic and believe that our country is going to get through this sooner than later, and believe that we're going to have a college football season. And you might say that it's too early for me to say that, and theoretically it probably is, but I'm an optimist, and I believe in our country, and I believe in our people and our resources, and I'm going about my business. I'm covering this football program in a way that I believe that I'm going to be covering games at Sanford Stadium this fall. And, I'm not trying to take this lightly. I hope that nobody's feelings are hurt by that. I certainly don't want to insult anyone. I don't want to get ahead of myself. But for the purposes of who I am and what I do, I've got to believe, just I guess as a former military guy, I've been a mission-oriented person all my life. I know how these experts are approaching this. I know how our government is approaching this, and I've got confidence. So I guess let me just throw that out there as a precursor. I'm saying that because, some people are saying, Mike, you're talking about football, and we don't even know, and we don't know. And, McGarity made a great point. The people at the schools, the presidents, the ADs, they can't really throw a projected date out there because you've got to kind of put the cart before the horse, right? Or put the horse before the cart. And, we've got to problem solve, and we've got to make sure that safety and all these other things fall in place first. But once it does, football's back on. And, you come to Dog Nation, we want to talk sports, and I want to talk football. I'm excited about this program. I'm excited about what Kirby Smart's built. I'm excited to hear about the workout groups that are going on right now. Again, we know Terrence Edwards is working with Ladd McConkey. He's working with Jermaine Burton. There's other groups going on right now. One of the other things that got swept up in all this is that there's no pro day. That's going to hurt guys like Michael Barnett, like Tyler Clark, like Eli Wolf. That hurts them bad. Helps the seniors that played in all-star games. Helps the guys that went to combines. But the NFL Pro Day is going out the window. The draft's still scheduled to move ahead, April 23rd through April 25th. That's still going to happen. Free agency started. I think it's kind of all given us a little bit of energy today, seeing that Tom Brady's not going back to the Patriots, right? All of a sudden, we're talking football again. Hopefully, it's given you the energy it's given me, and really kind of motivated us to get going again. And again, I couldn't do this without Ingles. You're watching the Ingles on the Beat Show. I'm Mike Griffith. Now I want to answer your questions. I've thrown out some of my philosophies, some of my theories. There's no plan for this. There's no script. I'm doing it from home. We wonder about the lighting. I'm using God's lighting. Okay, the lighting out here is great. So, what questions? Jeff Boyle wants to know any previously recorded football games on ESPN. I'll tell you what I watched yesterday. I was going through the channels and I hit Wake Forest versus Utah State. I say, hey, Jamie Newman. That's what I watched. So keep an eye on ACC Network, and you may catch some Jamie Newman stuff. And I think that that's obviously relevant and pertinent. That just happened to be their 38-35 win over Utah State. Jamie Newman brings them from behind. He hits a long 70-yard pass in the final minute to get him down to the 1 or the 2, and then he makes a fourth down throw that he just puts it on a dime. I mean, this guy has got a strong arm. And that's something that just jumped out at me watching that Wake Forest game against. I see that Jill Burke is saying that Friday is going to be UGA Day on the SEC Network. I guess that's a good day to set your DVRs. That's a good day for me to set mine. I have all the football games recorded right now from last season. I record them as I go. I like to go to the game, write about it that night, write about it the next day, but I really like to have it on tape so I can kind of go back and go the slow-mo and see what happened here and look at this position. Because usually when Kirby does these post-game press conferences, he'll drop a lot of hints. And, he'll mention a player or two, and if you go back and look, you can kind of figure out what he was referring to. So some thoughts there on how you get through this, right? Watching the Georgia replay day, somebody there giving us some information on Friday being Georgia Day on the SEC Network. Jason Lee, the whole defense is fire. Man, I couldn't agree more. This defense is probably as good a defense as I've ever seen. With what they bring back and the way that they played. I see Terrence Mathis is watching, Dwan's dad. Terrence, I hope you're doing well up there in Michigan. Hope Dwan's doing well. I know Dwan was on a heck of a comeback. Still is. I know Dwan's working out. I don't even need to ask you that question, man, because I know how hard Dwan's been working. Here's a guy that couldn't even walk last May and June, and now he's in the thick of a quarterback battle this spring. He'll be competing for those snaps. Man, so much talent coming in on offense, and now these guys can't really sort it out until a little bit later. Jermaine Dunbar, do I think there will be more top award winners on defense than any college football team? I think that for a change, we'll see some guys make All-SEC. How about that? Last year, Georgia had the best defense in the country and didn't have anybody first-team All-SEC defense. So you want some fire? I thought that was kind of ridiculous. Individual award winners on defense, Azeez Ojulari is a guy that could be in the running for the Nagurski Award, which is the best defensive player. Azeez was one of 7 finalists last year for the SEC or for the Freshman of the Year award. And to do that was pretty impressive. That he was on, I think he was the first freshman that had ever been a captain for Kirby Smart, if I'm not mistaken. So I think that's pretty important to note. Azeez Ojulari, Richard LeCount, I could see him as a Thorpe Award winner. The guy that I'm really high on is Tyson Campbell. I thought Tyson Campbell, the start of last season, was just unbelievable. He was coming up. He was hitting people. He's long. He's one of the fastest guys on the team, if not the fastest guy. It's really him and Stokes dicing it out. But the length, the physicality that we saw, and then Tyson Campbell had that foot injury last year, and just wasn't quite the same. But I anticipate Tyson Campbell having an unbelievable year. He'll be a junior. I think he'll go pro early. I think you're probably going to lose 3/4 of that secondary. If Lewis Seen holds that starting job at safety, as I expect him to, opposite LeCount, obviously Richard's a senior. Eric's a junior. I think Eric Stokes will go pro. I think it was fortuitous for Georgia that he didn't go pro this season. I think it's good for Eric, too. I think he really will improve his draft stock. He's a guy that's going to add some upper body weight and strength. I mean, you saw him deplete the Tennessee quarterback as it was at 190 or 195 when Stokes puts on just a little bit more beef. He's an NFL cornerback. DJ Daniel, a guy that's back that started in place of Tyson. I mean, he's an NFL corner. You bring in Ringo, the number 1 corner of the nation. I mean, think about the depth that they have in that secondary. It's remarkable. There's just not another secondary that's anywhere near as deep or as talented as what Georgia. Guys like Amir Speed, right? I mean, coming back, and Mark Webb. I mean, these are guys that you're bringing in packages, and part of the success that Georgia has to do with their depth and their ability to play so many different guys. So I've heard some people say, well, how does Kirby Smart keep recruiting all these 5-star guys? And the answer is because they play them. They had more than 37 players last year on that Georgia defense played more than 100 snaps last year. I mean, that's remarkable. Think about that. And when I talk with players, like I reflect back on meeting with Kenny McIntosh. It was not quite this time last year. I guess it was May that I went down to South Florida, and he was kind of a mystery guy at that time. But I talked to Kenny, and I said, you know, you choose a place like Georgia when you know that DeAndre Swift is there, and you know that Brian Herring is there, you know that James Cook is there, you know that Zamir White's there. And, you know, Kenny said, you know, look, you know, I've got faith in Coach Smart. I'm going to earn my time. I'm going to play special teams and do what he wants me to do until I get an opportunity at running back, and then I'll make the most of it. And, you know, talking with his dad, Richard, you know, they recognize that, you know, there's an NFL career ahead, and you don't necessarily need 300 carries to get drafted out of Georgia. You know, Georgia's done really well splitting those carries up. You know, you look at what they did when they had, Todd Gurley and Sony Michel and Nick Chubb. These guys were all on the roster at the same time. You know, Chubb and Swift back there with Sony Michel, right? So they typically split the carries, and that's fine with the running backs. That's fine, and they like the competition because they've got other guys around them that push them. And excuse me a second here. Not green beer, green tea, right? Green tea. So they like the competition. They like getting after it with one another. They like pushing each other. You know, right now, McIntosh and James Cook, they're working out together in South Florida. You know, they're both from that area. So, you know, these guys are staying sharp. You know, even when I went to the workout group that McIntosh was in, the Florida receiver was in there. Helped me out. Somebody helped me out. He was a senior from that South Florida area. I think he caught a long touchdown pass. He didn't do anything against Georgia. Of course, really, Florida, none of them did until the fourth quarter when Georgia had the game in hand. Mark Brantley, thanks for the tip there. Wake Forest on tonight at midnight on the ACC Network. Again, if you missed me say it earlier, you know, check it out. Jamie Newman, you'll get some opportunity to see Jamie play. Tape it. Get a look at him. See what you think. See if you think if he's really a top 5 Heisman Trophy candidate. I can tell you this. When I went to the Combine just a few weeks ago in Indianapolis, and I talked to some Wake Forest teammates of Jamie's, and a lot of times when you go up to these guys, and this is true even at Georgia, typically when you go to a player, you go to a player to do an interview about them, right? And of course they like to be interviewed about themselves and what they do. But kind of the true test for me on a player is, you know, how eager are his teammates to talk about him, and what are the teammates saying? Is it lip service, or is it real? And you can tell. You know, I've been interviewing people almost 30 years, I guess, and you can kind of tell when it's genuine. Those Wake Forest guys couldn't wait to talk about Jamie Newman, and every one of them, oh yeah, they can't wait to see what he's going to do at Georgia. Now, I called Dave Clawson, the coach, and he politely told me I'd just rather not talk about this. And obviously he lost his quarterback, so he didn't say anything bad about Jamie Newman. He wasn't upset. He just said, you know, this is a topic that really, you know, it was kind of awkward, right? It was kind of an awkward topic for him. But you talk to Jamie Newman's teammates, and they love the guy. And then you talk to the players that played against him, and you know, they're blown away. And it was Tanner Muse, the Clemson safety, who runs like a 4.41, by the way, straight line speed. Even though Clemson dominated Wake, now this is what people don't pay attention to. The last 4 games of last season, Jamie Newman was missing 2 out of his top 3 receivers. And before you tell me that doesn't matter, remember that Jake Fromm was completing 70% of his passes with Lawrence Cager and less than 50% of his passes without him. Newman was missing 2 out of his top 3 guys. And so, but Tanner Muse was the one that said, you know, and I didn't ask him, I didn't put these words in his mouth, but he said he's going to do what Justin Fields was going to do for him. And I said, oh boy, here we go. Jamie Newman versus Justin Fields, right? It's going to happen. You're going to see it in the Heisman race. You're going to see the stats are going to be compared. I mean, Jake Fromm's probably going, I'm tired of that. You know, thanks a lot, guys, for comparing me to Justin Fields. You know, when I'm missing my top 5 receivers from a year ago, and I have 6 receivers miss games this last year due to injury. Now, that wasn't exactly a real fair comparison for Fromm, especially when they're playing top 25 teams, going 5-1 against the top 25 last year. and I'm still trying to remember who Ohio State beat other than Michigan that was in the top 25. But the point of the matter is you're going to see some Justin Fields comparisons to Jamie Newman. My thought, they're both strong-armed guys. I don't know Jamie Newman personally yet, but everything I'm hearing is leadership, firm handshake, and grown man. Grown man, not a boy, a grown man, okay? Accountable, doesn't make excuses. This is a guy that was rubbing everybody the right way in Butts-Mehre Heritage Hall. So from a leadership standpoint, that's exactly what the doctor ordered. Amos Williams brings this up. Newman more accurate in tight windows than Fields. So you're talking about, Michigan State and Wisconsin. Thank you, Drew. I appreciate that. I went to Michigan State. They weren't a top 25 team. They just weren't. They were bad. Their offense was pathetic. Penn State, good team. Thanks, Jermaine Dunbar. Thought Penn State was decent. Point is, I don't think the Ohio State schedule measured up to Georgia's, in my opinion. But getting back to the comparison, so Amos Williams brought up the statistics. So you may have seen this advanced metrics. This is kind of a new thing. You're going to see more of it moving forward. It's Pro Football Focus. And what these people at Pro Football Focus do, and I wholeheartedly endorse them and recommend you to find them on Twitter, follow their tweets. They put out great data. They chart every play, and they grade players. And the measurement that Amos Williams was talking about was that only Joe Burrow of LSU had a higher tight window throw grade and a higher deep ball grade than Jamie Newman last year. And that's remarkable. So thus, Jamie Newman was better in those two categories than Justin Fields. Now say this, Pro Football Focus ranks Newman third among the returning quarterbacks behind Trevor Lawrence and behind Justin Fields. So, look, Fields did some good things up there. And it was funny, maybe funny, not funny, ironic, I don't know what the right word is. But I've got some buddies from when I covered Michigan State from 2012 to 16 that covered Michigan and Ohio State. And the Michigan and the Ohio State beat writer came up to me and said, man, Kirby Smart really missed on which quarterback he kept, didn't he? I said, I don't know. What do you mean which quarterback he kept? Well, he should have kept Fields. Well, he did want to keep Fields. I mean, do you not understand that? But keeping Fields would have required him, doing a completely different offense and demoting the quarterback that had just led him to a national championship game that would be wearing a national championship ring if the guy in the secondary plays his assignment and doesn't get faked out by a Tua head fake, right? That's what stood between Jake. You're supposed to demote this guy and change your entire offense? I mean, that's ridiculous. You're not going to do that. You're going to go with what got you there for the sake of continuity. I mean, nobody does that. Show me a Super Bowl winning quarterback that loses his starting job before the next game of the next year. It doesn't happen. So I said, look, you guys are getting this wrong. Kirby wanted to keep the guy. I thought Kirby went too far. When Fields said he wanted to go to the bowl game last year and you knew he was transferring, I'm going, what are you thinking? You're going to blow up your locker room doing this, right? But he did. He kept Fields. He brought him to the game. I mean, he said publicly, we want to keep Justin on our team. We want him to come back. So that narrative just blows my mind. I can't use the word. It upsets me because it's just inaccurate. But it's convenient, and the Big Ten people want to all think, well, Georgia, Kirby Smart, they're just a bunch of dummies. No, you got to compete for your jobs down here, okay? Because there's depth, because there's good recruiting. These people just need to let it go. I'm with John Benton. But the fact that they hit me with that, unbelievable. I mean, I'm asking questions about Jamie Newman, and I'm getting trolled over this garbage. I don't need that, man. I don't need that. So now, the interesting part is, as Tanner Muse from Clemson said, Georgia is looking to change over to more of a spread offense, more read option. Now, they had some RPO action last year, but look, me and you and the birds and the bees knew that Jake Fromm wasn't going to keep the football, so that wasn't a real true fake. And I don't blame Jake, by the way, because Jake couldn't afford to get injured, okay? Because if Jake gets injured, the ship goes down. I mean, there's zero chance, right? And I know people are going, well, what are you talking about? They had a bad year. I got to keep reminding people. Georgia finished fourth in the country and went 5-1 against top 25 teams. I mean, they beat a really good Baylor team in the Sugar Bowl 26-14 with 14 guys that have started games not even there. That's what Georgia's got coming back, okay? I mean, we're talking about a lot of juice. 5 of those guys that started on offense, 9 of those guys that started on defense against Baylor are coming back. Plus, you plug in these receivers like Jermaine Burton. Jermaine Burton, again, I don't know if you heard me say this earlier, but talking with Terrence Edwards, he's telling me this guy's faster and quicker than Jamar Chase. Now, is he going to catch the ball like Jamar Chase? Is Jamie Newman going to be as effective getting him the football as Joe Burrow was? While I'm on this Joe Burrow thing, I kind of want to throw this out there. This is an event, okay? This is an event. This is just a thought. Joe Burrow didn't go to class. Joe Burrow was taking online classes. Now, the NCAA is all about a level playing field, right? They're all about same number of scholarships, everybody having the same recruiting calendar, same number of coaches, in the coaching box, right? It's all about level. You've got some programs out there where athletes can take online classes and don't even have to go to class. At Georgia, there are guys that take online classes, but not to that extent. And a common refrain that I heard last year was they want that Georgia presidents wants Georgia to be Harvard Monday through Friday and beat Alabama on Saturday. One of the things that I believe could evolve out of this, the situation that we're in, where right now all these student athletes are finishing their classes online. Now, the Academic Support Center, by the way, still open. The training room still open, okay? So Georgia's still taking care of their student athletes. But my thought is, I think you will see more student athlete designed curriculum so that these student athletes can do what they go to college for, which is play football, get an education, but get an education in less of a traditional sense. Only because I think if you're going to ask them to train to the extent that these guys train, and I mean, I've seen it. I've seen those guys dragging out of that building at night, all right? And then also go to class, and then also go to the academics. Let me tell you, that's an 18-hour day. I mean, I don't know, and again, I'm older now, but I remember being but for anybody, that's exhausting. I remember Michael Barnett, who's a team captain and a guy I've got a lot of respect for, saying, when they had that bye week, this year they had 2 bye weeks, and he said, man, I got to go. I got to go out somewhere where there's field and there's trees, and I just, as much as Michael loved football and his teammates, I mean, the grind is unbelievable. And so I believe that one of the things that's going to come out of this is more online classes. Like I said, Joe Burrow, think about what an advantage that was for LSU to have a graduate level student for 2 years that never had to go to class, never had to crack a book, just online for 2 years. That's what Joe Burrow was doing. That's almost unfair, isn't it? I'd say that it is. I mean, when the whole idea is to level the playing field, I mean, that's more rest, that's more time training, that's more time in the playbook. I still remember, and I know that some of my Georgia friends cringe when I tell Tennessee stories, but there's Tennessee fans that'll swear to you that Tennessee lost to South Carolina in 2016 because Josh Dobbs had to stay up and cram for one of his aeronautics tests. I mean, the guy's probably going to be an astronaut. You guys know about Astro Dobbs. The guy was truly an academic marvel, but he had tests to study for. They lose to South Carolina, and the fans are going, what the heck? And Dobbs going, yeah, I had to stay up late, study one night. You're going, Joe Burrow's like, stay up for what? Right? I'm online, baby. So I think one of the things that's going to change out of all this is I think you'll see schools relax, maybe some of the curriculums. And I've even had coaches tell me at other stops, that they would like to see curriculums designed, that give their athletes a better chance for success, right? Now, obviously, Kirby Smart was academic, all SEC, and a business school graduate, and you're going to have those guys. But you're gonna have other guys that, how much training, do they need? Money management skills, things like that. I could see them get into, majors such as sports marketing, sports administration, areas where they're interested, okay? Things that they want to do, not that you're telling them you've got to wedge them into, right? Oh, well, we don't have that as a major. You know why? This is what I want. Online is a game changer, and our society as a whole will evolve from this academically. And I believe that the athletics will benefit from this. I believe that you'll have more of a common sense approach to it. You're going to find out in this trying time that these student athletes can learn through their online studies. I think that's what you're going to see happen. So that's just kind of one of my thoughts that comes out of this, is maybe more online stuff for student athletes. But getting back to the Bulldogs, absolutely loaded. To me, this is a team that will probably win the SEC championship this season. As far as the playoffs goes, tell me who's healthy. Someone's asking me how tall. Jermaine Dunbar wants to know, how tall is Jermaine Burton? He is listed at 6 foot, 195 pounds. So he's a big dude. The big guy, though, is Justin Robertson. Now, Justin Robertson is 6'4", 210. And talking with Terrence Edwards, and I haven't written the story. Drew Roman, I see your question. I'll get to it in just a second. I haven't written what Terrence Edwards said about Justin Robinson, who, if you missed earlier, Terrence Edwards training them right now, compares him a lot to Lawrence Cager. That's a heck of a comparison. Lawrence had that huge catch radius at 6'4", 220. Justin, almost that big right now, has been on campus. A guy that Coach Hankton is very excited about. Another one of these freshmen. Now, Drew Roman, you're asking me about Tommy Bush. I've seen some really good workout video of Tommy Bush, probably the same video you have. Tommy's a big guy. He's 6'4", 6'5". I think he's had a great offseason. You remember last year, I believe, didn't he have that? Didn't he have the sports hernia? I think he did. That's tough to come back from. But remember, DeAndre Swift went through that following his sophomore year. That's what really hurt DeAndre. As far as his ability to train and things like that. Or was that going into a sophomore year? Yeah, that was actually going into a sophomore year that he had gone through that. And it had kind of slowed him down, all throughout that season. And last year was really DeAndre Swift's healthiest offseason, and it catapulted him to great things. I kind of felt like DeAndre Swift kind of got the short end of the stick a little bit. I didn't think he got honored as much as he should have. He wasn't a finalist for any of the running back awards. I know Clyde Edwards-Helaire got all the love because LSU went undefeated, but I'm here to tell you, DeAndre Swift is a better running back than him. DeAndre is going to do great things in the NFL, but he didn't really get that full, college experience. He never really. There were some Heisman numbers at the beginning of the year, but he fell out of it quickly. I felt bad, and kudos to DeAndre for sticking around and going through the Sugar Bowl. I think that's part of the reason why DeAndre wanted to go through that Sugar Bowl experience. Even though he wasn't even supposed to play, he wanted to be there. He wanted as much of the college game as he could get. Drew Roman, one question at a time, Drew. So, Drew's just killing me with these questions. I'm trying to catch up here. So the Tommy Bush question. Yes, I think Tommy's going to compete. I think Matt Landers is a guy that's in line to have a good season. And I know that everybody right now collectively is saying, listen, Matt Landers had a great catch in the Sugar Bowl. He was dialed in more than ever, I thought. I thought he felt a sense of urgency. I think he felt that there was an opportunity with Lawrence being out. Remember earlier in that game, there was another injury. They had lost they had lost Dominic Blaylock in the SEC championship game, and then I think they lost Keiris Jackson in the first quarter. So there was an opportunity for Matt Landers, and I thought he played well in the Sugar Bowl. And let me tell you, I've seen Matt in person. This is one big dude. This guy is 6'5". He's got to go at least 220. If he gets dialed in and he makes the catches that he should make, Matt Landers is an NFL receiver, okay? If he makes the catches that he should make, he's got everything. He's got the hand. He's got the size. He's got the speed. I think he's got the route running. He's got to get the hands. He's got to get consistent catching the football. There was another question. Drew Roman asked me about Otis Reese. Why didn't he play him more? Here's the question. Who do you play him for? Are you benching J.R. Reed? Are you benching Richard LeCount? I don't think so. We saw Otis used in situations. This is going to happen when you recruit like Georgia does. you're going to have talent stockpiled. And some guys are going to be willing to stick around and compete, and some guys are going to see an opportunity and want to go elsewhere. And I think Georgia's done pretty well for the most part as far as transfers. I mean, listen, we talked about it earlier. Justin Fields didn't want to compete. He had an opportunity to go up to Ohio State and be the quarterback, so he took it, and it got him to the college football playoff. Who's to say he made the wrong decision, right? He's from Georgia. He tried it here, and he didn't beat out Jake, so he left. Otis Reese competed in the secondary. Drew, you're saying he's better than Lewis Seen. I don't know that. I know that Lewis Seen was outstanding in the Sugar Bowl. I think he had 6 tackles, and I didn't feel like J.R. Reed was missed. And I know he's bigger. You're saying he's bigger, but it's not always about being bigger back there. It's about assignment football. It's about your reads. It's about coverage. It's about speed. Listen, Otis Reese was a big hitter and a talent, but J.R. Reed was the starter, and Otis wasn't, and he had to compete for snaps. And, I've got to default to Kirby Smart at safety. I mean, I think I know a lot about football, Drew. I do. I've covered it a long time. But if you're asking me, do I think I know more than Kirby Smart over who should be at safety? I'm defaulting. I don't think I know more than Kirby Smart. I think Kirby Smart is football genius. So I've got to say there's a reason why Lewis Seen was out there and not Otis. And now Otis went to Ole Miss, and he'll have opportunities, and good for him, right? And Georgia moves on. I mean, Georgia's got Tyreek Stevenson back there. They got to get Tyreek the Freak on the field somehow. I mean, this guy's a playmaker. Where does he fit? I mean, that's what I mean. There's just so many guys. Andy Hall wants to know the Devontae Wyatt situation. I'm not sure what you're asking me about that. Kirby said there'd be, discipline internally. I'm sure that was happening. I think you all saw the police report there. I think Devontae, what did he kick a door or something? There was a verbal argument, and he kicked a door, and and that led to the misdemeanor arrest and being held overnight. That's where I know that it's at. I mean, he's still on the team, if that's what you're asking me. There was not any. Looking at the police report and reflecting back on that story, there was no violence. Okay, there was no physical violence. And listen, that's not the right way to act. Okay, kicking the door is wrong. Yelling at somebody is wrong. It's not the way Kirby wants the Bulldogs to represent. I can't sit here and tell you this isn't wrong or bad, but I can't also, and I don't want to make light of it, but I'll just say things happen, and you hope that players learn from this, and that no one gets hurt. The most important thing, I mean, there's team rules, right? There's a reason why J.J. Holloman wasn't on the team last year. Rules are rules, and there weren't even charges. There weren't charges brought, and he still wasn't on the team. But Kirby is, he's got a line, man, and there's some that you don't cross that line on some issues. A little bit more slack some areas, but this time, this Devontae Wyatt thing. The thing I think I would say about this is, this is one where this wasn't going to get out of hand, okay? Because frankly, last spring, Kirby was at the end of his rope. He was pissed off. I mean, I'm sorry to use those words, but when I sat in that press conference after 6 guys arrested in 6 weeks and Kirby came in there, he was he was seething. It was the angriest that I'd ever seen Kirby Smart. Now, he was professional and he was contained, but you heard him take the blame and say, we haven't done a good enough job. And then you saw guys running steps. And, I mean, to me, that's okay, guys, that wasn't going to happen this offseason. I'm just going to tell you. Kirby Smart, that was not going to happen this offseason. The stuff that happened that last offseason, and John Benton, you make a great point. If they've got J.J. Holloman, there's no way they're losing to South Carolina, okay? But if you got J.J. Holloman, I mean, you start doing the ifs, all right? I don't know if I want to go down this, but let's be real here. Let's just the what if, okay? What the heck? We're talking football. It's March. We've got this incredible unprecedented life situation going on around us. Hell, let's go what if, all right? If you give Georgia J.J. Holloman, a healthy Lawrence Cager, and a healthy DeAndre Swift, and then you take away LSU's 3 best players, Jamar Chase, Jefferson, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire, does LSU still win that game? If you take away LSU's 3 best offensive players and you plug in Georgia's 3 best offensive players, how different is it, right? Now, we can't go back. We can't hit the reset button. We can't. But I'm just making the point that you've got to stay healthy. And to your point, J.J. Holloman was incredibly important, unbelievably important. And, J.J. Holloman was the guy that recruited Lawrence Cager. Lawrence was J.J.'s roommate. I don't know if people knew that, but when I went down and visited, with Lawrence Cager in Coral Gables, and that was interesting. I guess now's as good a time as any just to share a little bit more about Lawrence. Lawrence was a great baseball player and track athlete too, coming out of high school. And this was a guy that could high jump 7 feet. I don't know how many people knew that about Lawrence Cager, but he could high jump 7 feet in high school. I mean, he's the absolute freak. He had a 40-inch vertical, right? But when I went down there to meet with him, and I went to his apartment, I mean, and what I recognized and what I realized at the time, there were 4 or 5 boxes, and other than that, there was a couch and a chair, and it was bare. This guy was, I mean, his whole life was in those boxes, about to go to Georgia. All of Lawrence's faith was in Georgia. I mean, this kid was putting his entire future in the hands of Kirby Smart and James Coley and the University of Georgia. His entire future. Trust, faith, and it dawned on me how remarkable this was. That here was Lawrence. He just gotten his degree from Miami. He's a very intelligent guy. I know you guys got to know him this year. He was a fan favorite. He still is a fan favorite. But he looked into my eyes and said he trusted Coach Smart. And he liked Coach Smart from recruiting when Kirby was at Alabama. He remembered that. And that was why he was open to coming, because of that relationship with Kirby Smart. Think about the amount of trust that these players have to put into this coaching staff, into Kirby Smart, and into his assistant coaches. I mean, you talk about a leap of faith. But in Lawrence's case, here's a guy with 1 year of eligibility left. That's it, just one. It's all or nothing for Lawrence. And I thought he made the absolute most of it. I'm still very saddened, genuinely saddened by the timing of Lawrence's injuries. He goes down in the first half of that South Carolina game. If he's there the second half, they don't lose to South Carolina. There's no way. Lawrence already had 3 third-down catches in the first half of that game. But he goes down in that game, and then he gets injured again later in the season after that incredible, remarkable Florida performance. I mean, did they beat Florida without Lawrence Cager's 7 catches and 132 yards? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if they beat Florida without Lawrence. Those numbers, again, with Lawrence, Jake's 70% passer. Without him, he's under 50%. But then the break in practice, the broken ankle there, Georgia Tech practice week, and missing the bowl game. He went to the combine. He couldn't work out. And Lawrence was a guy that needed to be able to run and work out again. Somebody, I don't know who said it best. Somebody said in here that they're going to get a heck of a steal with Lawrence Cager. I saw that comment. Couldn't agree more with you. John Benton, great observation, John. He's going to be an absolute steal. So, you think about this. There's Robert Shoup. Hey, Robert, good to see you in here again. Deion Ware, the Cager injury did hurt really bad, to me. And then Swift wasn't healthy for LSU either. What did he have, like 2 or 3 carries? He wasn't right. He got hurt in that Georgia Tech game. That Georgia Tech game, boy, don't even get me started on that. I don't like that game being played the last week of the season. I know it's tradition, but I just think you're setting yourself up. You're playing a bunch of guys that are going to come at you like kamikaze pilots with nothing to lose at Tech. It's their Super Bowl. They're going to play with reckless abandon and played tough, and they did. And even though Georgia waxed them, Tech took a toll with the injuries, right? They hurt Swift. Pickens, got into that third quarter beef in the end zone, and he's suspended the first half of the LSU game, for crying out loud. The Tech game, just the timing of it. Alan Frazier from Dallas, I hope everything is going well there too. Zenny Allen, Zenny. The coronavirus is taken away from Lawrence. It's taken away from Tyler Clark. It's taken it away from Eli Wolf. Listen, Eli Wolf is going to run a low 4.5 number. Eli Wolf is going to run some really good numbers. Now, I don't know if Eli's going to catch on with an NFL team like Isaac Nauta did. And Isaac didn't go till the 7th round, remember, but Isaac ran like a 4.79, 4.83. Wolf's going to run in the 4.5 range. It's going to be really interesting. I think Eli's a borderline guy. Tyler Clark, a guy. I saw in a recent draft projection, though, that made me feel good. I saw a recent, I don't know if you saw that story a couple of days ago. One of the CBS sports writers did a 7-round mock. The interesting thing, okay, so, yeah, you've still got Andrew Thomas going in the first round, like number 11. Ben says play Tech with your walk-ons. You still got Andrew Thomas going number 11 overall. But they had Isaiah Wilson going higher in the second round than DeAndre Swift. They had Swift going in like mid-second round to the Chiefs, and I'm just like, okay, what did I miss here? Because DeAndre Swift is the best running back in the draft. And suddenly he was – now this is the only mock I've seen it in, but this is something I'm going to keep my eyes peeled to. I just can't believe that DeAndre Swift would slip to the second round, much less not be the first back taken. But I guess we'll see. But that was the recent mock. But I saw Tyler Clark was a 5th or a 6th round projection in that. So that was good to see that some people are familiar with him. Drew's got Jake Fromm going to the Patriots. I read, I think it was Jim Nagy. You see, we talk at Dog Nation, we have our sources, right? And Jim Nagy is the guy that I talk to a lot because he's the Senior Bowl executive director. And so he's always going out over all the campuses, but also because he was a scout for the Patriots, the Packers, and the Seahawks, a national scout. So this is a guy who's very comfortable assessing talent. And Nagy said Jarrett Stidham, that Jarrett Stidham is going to be the guy there. Now, I don't know how much Jarrett Stidham's learned or done in the last year, and the NFL is different than college, but I thought that was interesting that, some people are talking about maybe Jarrett Stidham being the guy. I mean, I just can't wrap my brain around that one, but we'll see. Will Jake go to the Patriots? I'm going to say no, and here's the reason why. So let's talk small hands here, okay? I don't know what mine are, but the reason I bring it up is you all right? Remember the small hand story? Is it a story? Is it even a story? 9 inches is what you want from here to here, right, to grip the football. Joe Burrow was right at 9 inches, and he made a joke that, I might as well retire from football because I have small, whatever. But Jake's were a little bit less than that. And, you go back and look at it, and, my answer to our small hands a problem is it's not a problem unless it's a problem. In other words, have we seen physical evidence that someone could have a harder time gripping the football in inclement weather? And in the case of Jake, we did see that. Now, part of that is that Jake had never really been exposed to inclement weather games. Warner Robins, it doesn't freeze down there a lot, right? And just common sense, you don't throw the ball a lot in wet weather games. But we saw Jake struggle against Kentucky. We say he struggled. He completed 9 out of 12 passes. But remember, Jake's a perfectionist. So when Jake says he's not comfortable throwing the football, that might mean that it's going to be 3 feet off. Other people might mean 3 yards off. But Jake is an accuracy guy, so it's all relative. But then we saw a little bit of it again at A&M. I just think that they're created enough doubt that the inclement weather teams in the Northeast, in the North, the Bears, the Patriots, the Jets, the Giants, I don't know who else is up there. I don't think those teams are going to be interested in Jake Fromm. The Denver Broncos, the Seattle Seahawks. I do think, though, that the dome teams, to me, the perfect place for Jake Fromm is the New Orleans Saints. I want to see Jake with the New Orleans Saints. I want to see Jake as the understudy to Drew Brees. That's what I want to see. I think that's the ideal situation. Listen, he was coached by Jim Chaney, the same guy that helped develop Drew Brees. Jake is an incredible processor. That's what he does well. You can't see it, and so he doesn't get credit for it. But what turns these scouts on so much about Jake Fromm is the way he can process things. And I wrote a story And again, I throw it out there because I don't know who's read what. I mean, we have so much on Dog Nation, and my teammates do such a good job, whether it's Jeff Santel with his recruiting, or whether it's Connor Riley. Michael Carvel does a lot of amazing things. BA with the Dog Nation Daily. So there's always content up, so I'm never really sure who saw what, but I reference it in case you did. Talking to the opponents of Jake Fromm, and what did they say at the Combine? And the thing that they all said that made Georgia so tough, and this was kind of a hidden advantage, Jake could call all of his own plays from the field. Okay, so you'll notice most quarterbacks when they go to the line of scrimmage, they'll go up to the line quick, they'll get everybody set. The defense has to get set just in case they do a quick snap. But usually they go to the line, and then the quarterback puts his hands on his hips, and he looks to the sideline, right? And what he's looking for is the play call. Jake doesn't look to the sideline, okay? Jake goes up to the line, looks for it, and he goes. He calls the plays. So what that did was that limited defenses from adjusting, because they didn't have time to look to their sideline, because Jake can snap or Jake can audible and Jake can go. So that was the advantage that George had. And then the other thing was Jake's pre-snap reads, right? Jake could identify the matchups faster, quicker, and get through his progression smoothly. Like, as Nagy told me, like some guys you could see him actually, thinking through it, right? Jake, you didn't even notice him going through the progressions. You didn't know that Dominic Blaylock was the third read against Auburn. It sure didn't look like it, did it? Right? But he was, okay? Because Jake is that much of a processor. That's why there's so much interest in Jake, and that's why some people will say, well, the arm strength, but other people, man, they want him to have that arm strength. They want to see the accuracy because they want that processor. They want that guy like Jake. He's a football mind. His football IQ is through the roof. They want that guy. So you might take a chance on Jake. You might go, well, Kurt Warner didn't like the way he threw at the Combine. Okay, well, but what can Jake do once he's in your? Can Jake get a little bit better? What if he's just doing nothing but football? We talked about that earlier. About how these guys in college. I have so many people, and I talked with D. Orlando Ledbetter, our Falcons writer for AJC.com, and he said a lot of these guys are going pro too early. Well, okay, not Andrew Thomas, because Andrew's a first-round pick and a 3-year starter, and again, another story I would reference. Let me just say this about Andrew Thomas. I don't know if I've run across an offensive lineman as polished on and off the field is Andrew Thomas, maybe ever. I mean, and granted, I covered Chris Samuels at Alabama. Now, I left that beat before Chris was a senior. Chris turned out to be an incredible NFL player and was an Outland Trophy winner, and just a guy I've got a lot of love and respect for just from back in those Alabama days. He was amazing. I covered Cozy Coleman and Chad Clifton at Tennessee. These were long-time, incredible football players. But Andrew's not just a great player. Andrew's like a great person. Like I was as entertained talking to Andrew Thomas about the finding out about the church band that he played in, the family's involvement, the fact that he could play the piano, for goodness sakes. He's got a piano right now wherever he's preparing. He's got a piano that he's playing. The humor. When Andrew Thomas told us the story about Ben Cleveland and the big hunting knife that he carries around and picks his teeth with, I mean, he had the place rolling. This guy could be a stand-up comedian. Andrew Thomas is the consummate pro. And so when I saw all these ratings about, Andrew Thomas is maybe the 4th or the 5th bet, I'm going, okay. You keep listening because those teams want you to think that. Andrew Thomas is going to be in the top 15 of the NFL draft. Andrew Thomas is going to have a long and prosperous career. Andrew Thomas will forever be a fan favorite at the University of Georgia because of the way he represented himself, because of the teammate that he was. So I've got really, you can tell. And listen, I got strong feelings about Solomon Kinley and Isaiah Wilson too. Really, all these guys, they do such a good job. I would have liked to have seen Solomon and Isaiah come back selfishly, but also to kind of just see them get their accolades. I mean, Solomon Kinley, you talk about a guy that's going to be a steal. If he really lasts until the 3rd or the 4th round, Absolute steal. Isaiah Wilson, I think, he showed up for his podium interview at Indianapolis with the sleeves torn off of his warm-up shirt so that he could showcase his biceps. Because Wilson, he's like 6'7", 350 now, just beastly. And I think those NFL teams saw that and were like, they fell in love with the body. Well, he might be a little stiff, and his footwork may not be where you want it, but 6'7", 350, and the personality. I mean, another guy that just kind of cracks you up. So, some thoughts from the combine. I don't even know how we got off track. Drew Roman just cracking me up. Drew, you probably asked me the question. John Benton, will Kirby run up the score in South Carolina this year? I hope so. Here's the thing you got to know about Kirby. Kirby's not into running up the score unless there's a reason to. Everything Kirby does is with purpose, and it's usually thought out. Now, every now and then there's some emotion. But typically, his aggression is controlled aggression. Okay, so I'll give you an example of this, and I'm still learning Kirby, right? I'm learning to speak Kirby. I'm learning the mannerisms. I'm covering a Hall of Fame coach, and I enjoy covering Kirby. I go through his transcripts. I keep all of them. There's a reason why this guy is so ultra successful. There's a reason why the University of Georgia feels so good about having a leader like Kirby Smart. But it was the Auburn game. So this is kind of when I learned a little bit of a lesson about Kirby. Do you remember, and I can't remember the score, it was not this last season, it was the season before, but he kicks a fake field goal. They're up by, I don't know, what was it, 6? No, they're up by 2 scores. I think they're up by like 13 or something like that, or maybe 10. I can't recall, but the game's in hand. There's 3.5 minutes left, and Kirby goes fake field goal. And after the game, I said, "Hey, Coach, why did you try that fake?" He goes, "Well, why not?" And I said, "Well, you had a comfortable lead. Well, what's comfortable?" And he goes through some math that it makes like his digits add up, but the logic doesn't. And I'm going, there's something missing here. And everybody's telling me, no, Mike, here's why. It's because he's upset because last year, Gus said this after they beat him. There it is. Thanks. Zenny Allen brings it up. Kirby says, what's 13 plus 6? It's 19. 13 plus 3, it's 16. It's a 2 score. He's going through the math. But still, it's like Kirby. They haven't scored on you the whole game. I mean, they're not going to score. But anyway, and the fans are like, no, he's doing it because Gus said they beat the dog out of him, or isn't that what he said the year before? We beat the dog out of him or something like that. And so a lot of fans said, well, that's just Kirby. He was mad because Gus said this after the game. Well, here's what it turned out to be. And I found this out. I was talking with the long snapper, Nick Moore, at the Senior Bowl. Kirby works on those special teams plays. And he's a big advocate of special teams being a winning edge. All these coaches say it, but Kirby, you see it. You see him run fake plays, right? We all remember the fake punt against Alabama. We remember the fake field goal again. They don't always work out, the fake field goal. They did against Baylor, though. But part of what that is from Kirby's a guy that tells his players, look, if we're going to practice, there's a reason we're practicing this. I'm not going to make you guys practice something for no reason. He's not about wasted energy. He's not about wasted time. That's not how he operates, okay? He's a model of efficiency. You talk to the guys that have worked for him, and they will all tell you that time management skills are one of the greatest lessons you can learn from Kirby Smart. Well, if you're going to practice these plays, 2 things are accomplished by running them. 1, you let your guys know, hey, this is real. We're going to do this. So you better get it down. You better get it right because Coach Smart will call this. But 2, it creates an attitude that, look, we're all going to leave it out there on the field, right? All the players, Kirby's going to leave it out there on the field with those play calls. Hey, look, he knows that when he calls for a fake, he's putting himself in the crosshairs. But he's letting his team know, guys, we're going in there, and we're going to use everything we got. And so you got to use those fakes now and then, so your players know, hey, it's on. This could happen at any time. And so it's a mindset. It's part of the Kirby Smart mindset. So when people are telling me, well, I think he's a great coach, but I really wish he wouldn't have tried that fake, I said, no, you can't have one without the other. I mean, that's part of who Kirby is. He is an aggressive coach. He's going to leave it on the field. He's going to run plays that he believes in, and he's going to believe in his players. He believed in his players to execute that play. That's why he called it. They practiced it ad nauseum, okay? So that's part of the makeup. You can't say, I wish Kirby was like this but not like that. That's not how it works. This is who he is. And silver linings, and again, what we're going through right now, I've thought it through so many different ways, and, I'm still thinking it through, but, Kirby Smart is going to reload. I mean, and one of the things I thought about with Kirby, and I think I've said it before, is as hard as he goes and as fast as he goes, and you just say, man, where's the break? And you got this calendar, this 365 calendar now, and I told people, I don't think Kirby's going to be coaching past 50 years old at Georgia. Why? Because of one, coaches don't stay at their schools for a long time. I give you Steve Spurrier as an example, right? Steve Spurrier was the head coach at Florida 12 seasons. He was the ultimate Gator. There, a Heisman Trophy winner. So my thing was, 12 years for Kirby. But this break, this pause, okay, Kirby's going to reload. Kirby's going to be rested, right? I don't know when the last time was we saw a rested Kirby Smart in all actuality. Another one of my early predictions, and I'll probably write this at some time, I think you'll see some of the older coaches retire. I really do. And I think you'll see some of the veterans in other sports leagues, maybe the NBA, maybe Major League Baseball. Some of the people that have the resources, that have all the money that they could possibly want, are going to be separated from this passion, this sport, that they could never imagine living without. And they're going to find out that they can live without it. And so I think you're going to see some surprise retirements from some well-heeled coaches. I don't have anybody in mind. I don't have any tip. I'm just throwing pop psychology out there at you. But once they get away from the grind, break from the cycle, and get off the hamster wheel, they're going to realize, you know what? I got all the money in the world. I don't need that. I can enjoy my family. I can enjoy my ranch or whatever. So some more pop psychology for you. Andy Hall wants to know, do we have the QB guru like LSU did with Brady? Andy, so, Joe Brady brought an offensive scheme that was part Penn State and part New Orleans Saints. It wasn't really about the quarterback guru. What it was fitting an offense to a quarterback skill set and then having the players to execute. It was the perfect fit. And then keeping those guys healthy, by the way. The fact that the running back and all three receivers stayed healthy, remarkable. It just doesn't. And Burrow, it just doesn't happen. But it happened. LSU stayed healthy. That was the whole key. If they get one guy hurt, right? I mean, because remember the year before, it was Alabama that was winning at a historic clip. Actually, Alabama won more impressively during the regular season in 2018 than LSU did in 2019. But then what happens? Tua gets hurt. He's not the same guy. The timing is off. Tua without mobility is very ordinary and gets exposed quickly. And Georgia proved that, right? Georgia should have won SEC championship game. We know this, okay? I don't want to go back into all that bad memories. But the fact of the matter is they kept their guys healthy. Jacob O'Neill, you wonder if my neighbors ride by thinkings, and why is he throwing his hand signs at the window? I don't know. What am I doing? Well, they can't see me, okay? They can't see me. The neighbor next door isn't there, and the neighbor over here, there's a fence up. So they might be hearing me talking and wondering what I'm so excited about. But they should know by now, if it's Georgia football, I get pretty excited about it. I do go for walks in the neighborhood and talk about Georgia football. And those conversations usually last a while, whether it's here or whether it's at Ingles when I'm grocery shopping, or, whether it's when I go to the, AJC for, going to the office. And again, just a reminder, this is green tea, not green beer. Keeps me fueled up. Thank you, Jacob. That's a good question. And again, I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Ingles again. I've been out here doing the show with y'all. It's been therapeutic for me. I couldn't do this without Ingles. And Ingles right now, they're doing their best for their customers and their clientele. I know that they want to thank their customers and their associates for their patience, the support, and the business that they get. And they get a lot of good business. All Ingles stores right now are closing at 10 p.m., okay? Just so you know, your neighborhood Ingles, I know y'all go there, most of y'all probably already know this, but they're all closing at 10. The 24-hour stores that close at 10, they reopen at 6 a.m. The other ones reopen at the normal time. The Starbucks that are in the Ingles, they stay open at normal times. They close at 8 p.m. So if you go to Ingles and you want to get your Starbucks, you want to get your green tea, my Starbucks order is, I think I'm allowed to say my Starbucks order. It's half Mint Majesty and half Emperor's Cloud. That's how I do that. That's my little order there, because you get just enough of the kick from and then you get the mint. So, anyway, so yeah, Ingles has stayed busy cleaning, sanitizing, restocking, and they do that to serve you better. And again, it means a lot to me to have a sponsor like that. I've appreciated everything that they've done for this show. Typically, we do it in studio. You can see that my studio has changed now to my backyard. I'm using God's lighting. I think it's better than the light bulb that I have in my house. And again, it's just kind of somewhat therapeutic to be out here and just hearing the birds chirp. The birds are I think they're taunting me right now. It might be an Alabama bird that flew by there. It might be a yellowhammer. I think the yellowhammer was taunting me about the Alabama game last. It's Alabama State bird. Okay, that's a dad joke. You busted me. Hey, before I go, do you all have any more questions? I'm going to keep doing these. This isn't a one-time thing, okay? Dog Nation, we're committed. We're going to keep covering you. We got the best bosses in the world, and our bosses told us, be with your family. First thing they said, be with your family, guys. And, we want to keep working, but take care of yourselves and take care of your family. And that's where it started for us with Cox. And it just meant everything to me. It means everything to me. It makes me, I want to knock myself out. The company has that commitment to you. You want to have that commitment back to them. Same thing with the people that are watching, same thing with the people that are asking questions. We don't know when football's going to start, and we're having this conversation together. Our Dog Nation family is still talking football, and we're still making jokes, and I'm still seeing, people remind me of something. That means a lot to me. I'm going to have more ideas. I'm going to have more than Mike, the last survivor. Chip, that kills me. As long as I got my green tea, man, I'm good. And my oatmeal, I'm going to go old man on you. As long as I got my green tea, my oatmeal, and my yogurt, I'm good, guys. We're gonna keep talking sports. We're gonna keep talking football. I'm gonna talk basketball. How did I get out of here without talking They played the best game of the year. Did you see that? They won by 18 points with Anthony Edwards only scoring 6. What does that say about next year? How about that? How about Tom Crean and the Georgia Bulldogs? Hadn't we written them all off for dead after they lost by 30 points at LSU? I thought, there's no way they're going to bounce back in Nashville. And playing this Kermit team, the defense, the discipline, I'm thinking Georgia's going to go to Nashville and just get their, what's blown out. And Rayshawn Hammonds plays like a man on a mission. Jordan Harris goes off. Ant-Man's having a horrible night. What was he, 1 of 12? But he's still getting deflections and rebounds. Severe Wheeler with 8 assists. They dominate this thing. And I'm thinking they're going to beat Florida tomorrow. They're beating Florida tomorrow. And then the announcement comes, all right? And then the stark reality, right? Sankey is going up there for a press conference last Wednesday night. I've just filed a post-game story. Just talked with Coach Crane, and they brought Rayshawn Hammonds up there and Jordan Harris. The guys are excited. They can't wait to get to Florida the next day. And then they say Greg Sankey's going to have an announcement. They bring Greg in. Greg says there's not going to be any fans. And someone says, Greg, did you hear that they have just canceled the rest of the NBA season? And Greg says, I just found that out 15 minutes ago. And I turned to Chip Towers, my buddy at the AJC.com. I said, Chip, I don't think we're going to be back here tomorrow, man. I know they're saying the fans aren't going to be here, but with the NBA, and sure enough, and here we are 1 week later, right? Look at how fast it's gone. But folks, I'm telling you, these precautions, these preventative measures, they're for a reason. When I was in the military, we called it preventative maintenance, all right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And it's an inconvenience and it's hard, But right now it's what's called upon. And I told you earlier, I'm a military guy. You know, those 3 years I served meant everything to me. It clicks in. I'm a mission-oriented person, and right now the mission is safety and taking care of yourselves and taking care of your families. And that's just where we're at. So do that, and we'll keep talking Georgia sports. I'll have more stories for you. I'll have a story tomorrow, more Terrence Edwards, what he thinks about George Pickens, what he said about Justin Robinson. I'm going to write that story for you. Going to have a basketball season ender. Talked with Greg McGarity. Hey, the bulldozers and the dump trucks, they're still working on that $81 million building over there in Georgia. The construction is ongoing. So the world keeps turning, okay? But right now, stay mission-oriented. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Thank you, Eagles, for the sponsorship. And I'll be back on here no time at all. Again, stay tuned on nights. We're going to have Dog Nation people. We're going to be talking to you. We're going to be talking Georgia and answering your questions. You all take care of yourselves, and thanks for joining me tonight. I really appreciate it. It meant a lot to me. It really did.